What is forgiveness? Forgiveness isn't giving a pass, really. It's not always shaking hands and coming back together with the one who hurt us. Sometimes it is. Most of the time, though, forgiveness is internal. Forgiveness is a thing that we do for ourselves and in turn for the other. It's about taking responsibility for our reactions and responses and not holding the other accountable for those responses and reactions. So, what does this mean? If somebody behaves in a way which triggers you, whether it be a small thing or a large thing, the key is to look at the ways in which that behavior, which triggered you, touches upon some historical aspect of you that needs to be seen. Does this mean that you must expose yourself to this behavior more and continue to put yourself in the line of triggering behavior? No. Although people make mistakes. And so oftentimes there will be people in our lives who trigger us in some way, and we can't remove them from our periphery just because of a mistake that they made. However, when there is an individual in your life who continually behaves in a way which triggers or hurts you, then of course it's your responsibility to eventually say, we have reached the end of our path. I remove myself from your path and I love you at the same time. But in terms of situations where we're working with a relationship in which a mistake has been made, or even in terms of a relationship in which we must remove ourselves from said relationship, the key is to breathe, look within, feel the feeling, and redirect the thought. That is forgiveness. So if there is a person, for instance, in my life, and actually there was, so I'll go directly with that. There was a person in my life who was in my life for a set number of months who continually said things and behaved in ways that triggered my pain. I could reiterate the ways in which that behavior and those words would trigger anyone's pain, but that's not the point. The point is it triggered mine. And for a long time, I would receive the comment or the behavior. For instance, comments and behaviors about my physical appearance. I would breathe, I would feel the feeling, and I would understand innately that those feelings come from a certain belief system that exists within me already that has nothing to do with the person in question. What they say and what they do is not my problem. It's their problem. My problem is, what is it within me that responds this way? Why do I believe this about what they've said? And I just sit and breathe and feel that feeling that needs to be felt. I perhaps mention to them that it hurt. We discuss why it hurt, perhaps. But that's not really the important part. The important part is sitting with the self, asking now, what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is feeling. Forgiveness is redirecting thought and being present with feeling. When a behavior elicits suffering, anger, fear, jealousy, hurt, breathe, feel those feelings deeply. Do not follow the story of the thought that feeds them. And be present with all that that feeling encompasses within you. That is forgiveness. That is not holding the other accountable for your responses. That's not to say that the other is completely blameless, but it's not about blame. Their behavior and their words are their problem. Your response is yours. Just like when you do something to trigger hurt or suffering or anger in another, your actions are your problem. Their responses are theirs. Forgiveness is the understanding that others are not responsible for our reactions to them. Others cannot be held accountable for our responses. And our responses, when grounded in forgiveness, are focused on the self, not in blaming the self, not in holding oneself accountable for someone else's behavior, but rather allowing that moment to be a gift, to be a moment. And there goes the train confirming everything that we're being told. That moment is a gift that allows us to really see and encompass another part of ourselves that needs to be seen and encompassed. So, for instance, a behavior elicits a feeling of shame within you. To be more specific, a person says something about you, your intelligence, your body, whether it's direct or indirect, that elicits shame within you. Rather than lashing out at that person, look at the shame, feel it, breathe, ask for help from God. Ask for help in feeling. And notice as you do that, that feeling begins to billow out of you, not leave you. We don't want it to leave. It's part of us, but it integrates into the energy around you and makes you a wholer being. That person who behaved in a way that elicited those reactions, that triggered those reactions, sometimes people make mistakes. The best way to accept that is to do this, to feel, breathe, not follow the thought behind it, not lash out, and just be present with what is. Sometimes people repeatedly behave in ways which trigger these reactions. There does come a point when we must say, this is the end of our path together. I must remove myself in order to love myself and you. And we do so, particularly in situations of violence, emotional and physical. But for our everyday lives, with those we love and those we don't know, those we encounter once, when those reactions are triggered within us, breathe, feel, allow, ask God for help, and you've forgiven. This can be hard. Sometimes it feels like a person who has elicited these reactions in us deserves to be punished, deserves to know, should be held accountable. That's not our job. Our job is us. Feel, breathe, ask for help, feel, integrate, become whole. That's forgiveness.